Hey guys, welcome back to Algebra 2. It's Tuesday, April 21st. We are going to take what you guys did on Monday and apply it to a graph. So we're going to need to know how to factor. Please don't forget your GCFs. You're going to need to know how to find a whole, which comes from factoring. After you find your whole, then you look for your intercepts. And after you do your intercepts, you look for your asymptotes. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what a delta math problem looks like. Zoom this in just a little bit. It seems to be very focused. There we go. That looks a little bit better. All right, get some light on that. All right, so like I said yesterday, you might want to keep this handy, okay? A little cheat sheet. So wholes, we got to factor the top and the bottom. So the first thing we're going to want to do on any problem is factor. So it looks like the top here is difference of squares. X plus 5, x minus 5. The bottom has a GCF of -4. And then you get x plus 5. Okay, so we got it factored. And does anything cancel? Yes. The x plus 5 and the x plus 5 cancel, which means we get our whole from that. So we have a whole at x equals -5. So let's write down what the remaining problem is. Okay, so there's the remaining problem. This is where we get all of the rest of our information. So this is what remains. This is where we get the rest of our information from. All right, let's finish off that whole. All right, take this -5. We're going to plug it back into here. So I will let calculator handle that. I'm going to change the lighting on this. So, come on, clear. -5 minus 5 on the bottom. We have a -4, and so that's going to spit out 5/2. So that's the rest of our whole. If I can find that marker. Oh, there it is. 5/2. Okay, so there's our whole. After we get all of our information, I'll show you how to put that into delta math. Okay, so there is the whole. Next, we're going to do intercepts. Our top is already factored. So we just basically we're just going to write it down. What is, after we solve the top, what is the ordered pair that is the x-intercept? So we have, scoot this up a little bit. Our x-intercept comes from the top of the fraction, right here. So if we were to solve this, if we were to set this equal to 0, x minus 5 equals 0, gives us a +5. So there's our x-intercept. Our y-intercept comes from dividing the constants. So 5 divided by 4, or -5 divided by -4, gives you 5/4. There's our intercepts. Let's see what we get for asymptotes. Vertical asymptote. All right, let's see what we do for vertical asymptote. We factor the bottom, we solve for x. Okay, well the bottom's already factored, so let's try to solve for x. You can't solve for x on the bottom, so there is not a vertical asymptote. Let's look at the horizontal asymptote. So the horizontal asymptote, we check out the degrees. The degree on the top is 1. The degree on the bottom is 0. So that means the degree on the top is bigger. The top is bigger. Basically is telling us we're not dealing with slant asymptotes. If we were in class, we'd do with slant asymptotes. There is not a horizontal asymptote. So we have none here as well. So we have our 5 pieces of information that we need to head on over to the graph. And so we will try to plot this information the best we can. And so I'm going to change the screen up here a little bit and bring in my computer so that you can see, or we're going to show you guys how to put this information in. Okay, so here is the graph. Hopefully that's decently centered for you. Here is our information. So we have a whole at -5 and 5/2. So up here it says, if you get a fraction or decimal, then plot as close as you can to the true location. Okay, so whole. So tap whole, and you'll see this whole will show up on the screen. And we want to go to -5 and 5/2. So 5/2 is 2.5. So we'll come over here to -5 and go up to 2.5 right there in the middle, and we'll just let it go. So that's our whole at -5 and 5/2. The next thing we want to do is plot our x-intercept at 5, 0. So click on x-intercept. It gives you a point. So we're going to take it over here to 5, 0. The next thing we're going to plot is our y-intercept at 0 and 5/4. 5/4 is 1.25. So we'll get as close to that as we can. So 0. Oh, wait, hit y-intercept. Bring it down to 1 1/4, as close to 1 1/4 as you can. Now, we don't have any asymptotes, but I'm going to click on vertical asymptote and show you what happens when you do something wrong. So I'm going to click on vertical asymptote. The vertical asymptote here will show up, so I'm just going to leave it where it was. I'm going to hit plot rational function, and it's going to tell me the graph can't be drawn because there's a mistake. Well, our mistake is we're not supposed to have a vertical asymptote. So I'll take that vertical asymptote away. I will plot rational function, and it graphs the line. And if it were wrong, it wouldn't let me graph the line. So we'll come down, we'll submit the answer, and come on. Well, I actually know what happened. I'm signed in twice, and I have another problem, so it's confused because I gave up on that problem earlier, but that was correct. Okay, so that's what we want to do. All right, so let me show you this problem on paper, and then we'll come back over and we'll graph it. All right. Scoot this up a little bit. All right, so here's our problem. First thing we want to do, factor. So x plus 3, x plus 4. We get a 5 for a greatest common factor. We have an x plus 4. You guys should see that the x plus 4's cancel, which creates the whole at -4. We change that sign of that value right there. That's what our x value is. Our new function, x plus 3 over 5, is where we'll get the rest of our information from. This is going to be a lot like that previous problem. Go get an x-intercept. That comes from the top, so that's going to be -3. We'll get a y-intercept. That comes from the division of the constants. That's 3/5. Like I said, this is going to be a lot like that previous problem. Vertical asymptote. Solve the bottom. You can't solve the bottom. Horizontal asymptote. The top degree is bigger than the bottom degree, therefore there isn't one. There's the asymptote information. You know what we didn't do? Didn't finish the whole. Glad somebody yelled at me. So we take the negative 4. Negative 4 plus 3 be negative 1 over 5. So that'll finish up our whole. Thanks for yelling at me. Here's our intercept information. We'll switch screens. Go to the computer. Go look at Delta Math. We'll plot this stuff. Hit submit. Okay, so what do we want to do first? Let's do our whole, since that's what we did first. So that whole is at negative 4, negative 1/5. So we'll bring it over here to negative 4, and we'll come down just a smidge. Okay, that negative 1/5 is going to be negative 0.2. So we're just barely below the x-axis there. X-intercept is next. X-intercept was negative 3. So we'll click and drag this over to negative 3. Y-intercept is 0. 3 over 5. 3 over 5 is 0.6. So we'll grab the y-intercept. We'll bring it down here to 0.6. These three line up pretty well because it's going to make a line. And so I'll go ahead and plot the rational function. You'll see that the line goes through all three of those. Submit the answer. Yes. And boom, we got it right. Now, before I go, I do want to show you another problem because these two problems were pretty much the same problem. So let me grab another problem and see. Yes, this one will be a good problem. All right, so let me jot this down. (3x minus 15 over x squared minus 4x). That's my problem. Minus 5. All right, so this is going to be different from the previous two. This is why I wanted to do this problem. I want to factor. On the top, there's a GCF. On the bottom, this actually looks like a problem we did earlier. Just it's been flipped. So x plus 1, x minus 5. We get these to cancel, which gives us our whole. We change the sign of this negative 5. That's a positive 5. The remaining function is 3 over x plus 1. Take the 5, plug it back into here. That'll be 5 plus 1, which is 6. 3 over 6 is 1/2, so that's our whole. Let's look at x-intercept. Solve the top. You can't, so there is not an x-intercept. Get a y-intercept. Comes from division of the constants. So that'll be 0, 3. Get to our asymptotes. Vertical asymptote comes from the bottom. So we solve the bottom. You get x equals negative 1. Horizontal asymptote. Let's check this out because we haven't seen this today. Horizontal asymptote. Okay. So if the bottom degree is bigger, and that's what we have here. So the degree on the bottom is 1. The degree on the top is 0. There's no x's on the top, so it's 0. So that means if the bottom degree is bigger, then it's y equals 0. So we have horizontal asymptote at 0. So we have our whole, we have our intercepts or lack thereof, and we're ready to go put all this into the Delta Math and have it spit out a graph for us. So I'll switch over. Let's come down and start to graph this. You see we have a hole. That hole is at 5, half. So 5, half. We do not have an x-intercept, so we don't have to click on the x-intercept button. We do have a y-intercept at 0, 3. So we'll drag it down to 3. We have a vertical asymptote at x equals -1. So click on vertical asymptote. We got to drag it over to -1. We have a horizontal asymptote, y equals 0. So we'll bring this down to 0. And we are ready to plot it. So that's what the rational function looks like after we plot the y-intercept, the hole, and the 2 asymptotes. We submit, we get our green check, and voila. Graphing of rational functions. So it's pretty important to have the cheat sheet close by so that you can refer back to how do we get all this stuff. Okay? Saw a lot of red X's on today's homework. So today, I saw a lot of red X's on Monday's homework. Okay? So you got 10 graphs that you got to do, which means you got to find all that vital information, those holes, x-intercepts, asymptotes, okay? And please ask me for help. Y'all have a good evening. I'll talk to you soon.